All right, we are live. Thanks, everybody. I'm Shawn Cunningham. This is my brother Kyle. This is our podcast, video cast, a bunch of other stuff, series. We'll be talking every week about the topics of the week and whatever's going on that we feel like talking about. We'll throw some travel in there too, right?
Yeah, personal interests. We're excited to do
You're
this.
uncomfortable about personal interests. You don't want to talk about your personal interests?
No, I do not. We are excited to be here. It's definitely a new experience for us, and we're gonna learn as we go.
So our first podcast, we just set it up, which has been fun. There's lights everywhere. We're in Kyle's living room. I know we're not my living room. It's closer to me, but anyway, in Kyle's living room.
Mine is nicer and larger.
Yes, it's been a very busy day. You want to know what goes on. People think we all do is travel on social media, but actually 99% of the time we're actually here doing work. We just don't post about it. So my day has been, I've had like 3 people call me in a row about buying a house. I had someone call me about selling their house. And someone else called me about renting a house, and I told them, "Why are you renting? You're nuts." So that's kind of my day. It's been a busy day. I'm sure you've had a nice quiet day.
Yeah, very, very busy. And I run more than one company, so let's just say I have a lot going on.
All right. So what are we going to talk about today? We've got what's your?
Well, we want to talk about STRs, short-term rentals. We want to talk about the market, what's going on. Getting a lot of questions about that. Some of the things we're seeing out there in the field. But I'd say first, let's jump into STRs. Let's talk about short-term rentals. I don't know a lot about it because that's your side of the business. So you're gonna have to educate me and everyone else on the subject. I know the possibility for investors is there to make really good returns with STRs. What I don't know is a lot about the process of how to pick an STR, all the changing rules, regulations, what's going on with the state, Clark County. So what do we need to know? What do I need to know?
You want to narrow that down? We can talk all day.
Let's talk about the regulations about to change on July 1st.
Yeah, that's a big thing. It's up until now, for all of history, they've been illegal in unincorporated Clark County. If you know Vegas, it's basically everything north of Henderson all the way to the Sahara Hotel, or whatever it's called now. It changes every week. But the entire section of the city where the Strip is, the Allegiant Stadium, UNLV, the airport, most things are important, are all in unincorporated Clark County, and that area has been banned for a lot of reasons. I don't, you could speculate why, but last year the state passed a law that's effective on Friday, this coming Friday, July 1st, which states that you cannot ban short-term rentals with a few exceptions, but essentially you can't ban them. And so, there's been a lot of excitement for the last several months. I've had a lot of investors reach out. I know you have as well, about purchasing short-term rentals. We've had clients buy short-term rentals. And the excitement is good. The problem is we left it to the government to make these decisions. And Clark County has passed some ordinances that are not particularly investor-friendly. And so essentially what's happened now is July 1st are legal in theory at some point in the future. So they're not legal July 1st. So in September is what I'm hearing, that you will be able to apply for a license, and it will be a 6-month long waiting period until they actually will pull your name out of a hat, a lottery system. We love lotteries.
Oh, geez.
And they will assign you a short-term rental license if your property qualifies, meaning that you've completed a proper application. And qualifies, long story short, is if you buy a house that's not an HOA, HOAs are no-go. If you're not an HOA, and your property passes certain safety checks, which are pretty common sense things, CO2 detectors and things like that, then and of course you can't have more than one. That's the other weird thing they have going on. So if you have more than one property, you can only do one. So you've passed these certain rules they have. You go into the hat, they pull your name out of the hat, you get a license. They're issuing 2,800 licenses, 1% of the housing stock. Who came up with that idea? I have no idea. But that's what they're doing. So 2,800 licenses sounds like a lot. However, there are currently 14,000 illegal short-term rentals in Clark County, which means that it's a risk that you put yourself out there and you get denied because there's only so many to go around. So, but short-term rentals have always been a risk. We own one in Henderson. I've managed 20 of them almost now. So, in Henderson it was a risk. And Henderson has a much better system. The rules are more normal and workable, and they're more organized. However, there's still, you can find one occasionally, but there's still never really a surefire thing because you have to get a license, and you can't get a license till you own the property. So our investors are done well. They took the risk. They said, I'll buy the property. Hopefully I get the license and I can make really good return. If I don't get the license, then you have plan B, which is to make it a regular rental property. We also have executive rentals. We're doing now corporate stay rentals. So I talk all day, but long story short, if you want to buy a short-term rental, make the return, you got to be willing to take the risk. And if you're not willing to take the risk, then don't buy a short-term rental, because there's no one that can tell you anything that is guaranteed. But at least now there's a possibility of getting a license near the strip, like, not too close, but within a couple miles of a strip, which you could not even have a possibility of that until now, or pretty soon.
You can talk all day, but I prefer you to not.
That's true too. I know you enjoy some.
One thing you kind of glossed over there, I want to clarify, the HOA, for those that don't know, Homeowners Association have what's called CCNR rules that prevent you from doing a lot of things. One of the many things is Airbnbs. They don't want transient people coming in and out of the properties, so you got to avoid HOAs for short-term rentals. For executive rentals, which also to expound on that, you're talking about 1 month to month.
At least 30 days.
Yeah.
So it's good for traveling nurses or people in town on business for a month, or they need a place to stay in between properties. That's a very common request. I get that all the time. Building a house, or I need 3 months to stay somewhere. So those are higher rents, much higher rents for investors, which is great. But again, more risk, always more risk, right? The least amount of risk in real estate is to buy a house and rent it out for a year. We do that. We manage 250 properties almost, and we've done it for many years. And we know, there's very little that's going to surprise us in that scenario. But your rate of return is the lowest you get on that. So the more risk you take, the more return you get. So executive stay, corporate rentals, better return, but then you also have a possibility of higher vacancy rates, right? Because it's never guaranteed someone's going to stay there for 3 months or 1 month. And then, of course, you've got short-term rentals, which is the highest risk. You have a pandemic that occurred, right? We had to go back and deal with that for a few months both last year and 2 years ago. But then again, when things are good, like right now, you're making a lot of return. So that's kind of the way to look at that.
Let's shift topics on to the market in general. And what are you seeing out there? What are you?
What are you seeing? I've talked enough with you. Why don't you say something?
Because I like to ask the questions, not to answer them.
You don't have the answer. I'm sure you don't.
I don't.
You're not the boss. You're not the boss here. So.
I'm the boss everywhere.
Sorry.
I'm seeing a significantly more amenable market. So I think prices are the same, but I do think properties that were sitting and overpriced to begin with are coming back down to a rational number. So a few months ago, if a client said to me, I want to list it at, pick a number, for a while I would battle back against that number because it didn't make sense. But then we started listing it and it would sell anyway. So I got to the point of, try it and you never know. And that's what's changed. Now you have to make sure there's a basis in reality before you list a property, or it will sit, and it will sit with no activity whatsoever. And so on the buyer side, the opportunity is to go in on some of these properties that have been sitting for months because they were priced for a different marketplace and make an offer and get it accepted. I had an investor last week make an offer at $10,000 under asking, and got it accepted. And that property was priced correctly. So that's not the market we've been in for the last 2 years, where you can go under asking and get something accepted, especially in the $300,000 price point. So I think for buyers, you've got the challenge of interest rates, which have significantly increased, but you also have an easier marketplace. So you got to decide where you stand in the current market. But I think if you're out there looking, it's a good opportunity. You just bought a house yourself to move into.
Yeah.
You got that price down, right?
30,000, yeah. But I think there's a lot of hyperbole out there. Not surprising. I mean, it's social media, which has a tendency to, that we're on right now, so has a tendency to exaggerate everything. Yeah. So I want to. What you said is accurate. However, it is not a buyer's market, so not even close. It is a seller's market. And I had a client last week got outbid on a property in the 600,000 range. So another property we showed 700,000 had multiple offers. Our listings pretty much they've sold. I mean, they're selling. So there's a and the reason I say that, and by the way, a lot of buyers are reaching out to buy. Like, people are buying houses, and the reason why people, if you're wondering, well, why would somebody buy a house when rates are high? The reason being is that if you operate under the assumption that this is a temporary situation, rates are either going to go up or going to go down, right? Or they're going to stay the same. There's three options. They'll be the same as they are now. They're going to go up. They're going to go down. If they go down in a year, we can refinance your house, refinance it, and get the lower rate. If they go up in a year, which I personally think they will, then you're going to be grateful you bought now and you didn't wait. If you stay the same, it doesn't matter, because prices are probably going to still inch upwards because of the lack of inventory. We still only have under 5,000 homes in the market, so it's not enough. You need about 20,000 plus homes to have an actual buyer's market, which we know very well. We operate quite well in a buyer's market, but we're not close to a buyer's market.
I didn't say it was a buyer's market, but I disagree. I don't think it's a seller's market either. It just to me, a seller's market is what we were in for most of the last 2 years. You can't say now it's a seller's market.
I'll school you. My 20 years of real estate experience versus your 12.
I have 15. I have the certificate sitting right there.
Okay, well, anyway.
15 years.
I'll school you because I've been around a little longer.
5 years longer.
It is a seller's market. And you and I know a buyer's market. This is not a buyer's market. You can't just go, a buyer can't just go on any house and make an offer 10% below price and get the house. It's not going to happen.
I just did that.
It happened on one, I'm telling you.
Yeah, and you had one experience where it didn't happen, and you're making the same.
No, I have to look at the stats. I look at the statistics every day. The market is trending towards buyers, but we're nowhere near a buyer's market, which is not. And you know that. What the hell?
You could be in a neutral market.
It's not a neutral market. This is concept. Nationally speaking, a seller's market is 6 months of inventory. 6 months. Okay, we're not even in the stratosphere of that. So we're used to this idea if it doesn't sell in a week, or if you don't get over list, then it's a buyer's market. No, it's not. It's a seller's market. If you list your house, if you price your house correctly today and you list it correctly, you show it well, you good photos, you hire an agent that knows what the hell they're doing, and you put it on the market, your house will sell within probably a week or two. Okay.
And most of the last 2 years, you could do none of those things, it would still sell.
Yeah, that was a crazy market. This is a seller's. That was a market. That was an unsustainable market. This is the seller's market. Maybe it shifts into more of a neutral market eventually, but I don't see any way it becomes a buyer's market. I just don't. It would require, and by the way, recession will not do it. And people keep saying, oh, it'll be a recession.
We had that 2 years ago in the market.
Yeah, if you look historically, recessions do not affect real estate values. Everyone assumes 2008 is the only thing that can occur. That was an aberration, and we lived it. Quite intimately.
Can I address 2008?
No,
I get this question constantly, and it makes me crazy. Even just today, I was talking to somebody. I can't remember because I can't remember anything. But whoever I was talking to made the same comment about the economy is going to do this, the economy is going to do that. 2008 was a real estate-driven recession. The real estate market collapsed for very particular reasons. Those factors are not in existence today. Just because we have inflation, it's not the same as 08. 08 was a real estate bubble of epic proportions. This is not a bubble. And so stop asking if we're going to have another crash. No, we're not. We will have another recession because we always have recessions. That's normal. That's part of life. Don't panic. That's not the same as 08 crash. So enough. In 08, people bought homes with very little money down. People who could not qualify normally or should not have qualified. You had lenders doing shenanigans. You had a perfect storm of the government doing too much and not enough at the same time, and giving people homes that shouldn't be buying homes in the first place. And you had that in mass across the entire country. Imagine buying a home, buying 10 houses with no money down. I mean, that shouldn't even be possible. Yeah. That's what happened. So of course, values drop, and you immediately walk away. We have buyers with negative equity or negative cash flow. Basically, you buy a home that immediately when you close, you're losing $1,000 a month because they assume they can just sell it in 6 months and make a huge profit. That's a fundamentally unsound market. Today, everybody that buys a home buys for positive cash flow. They're not going to walk away unless rents and home prices collapse at the same time, which is not going to happen. So
it's never happened. Even in 08, rents didn't decline. But yeah, no, it's not gonna happen. Yeah, I agree with you. And I don't have the exact number in front of me, but something like I probably should. It's probably like 35% of homes in Vegas are owned free and clear, by the way, and a significant portion of the other ones are owned with people have substantial equity. Yeah. Like think about it. It doesn't matter if you put 20% down when you bought the house. If you bought a house 3 years ago and put 3% down, I'm listing one in a couple of days. They basically barely came out of pocket. They bought an FHA 2 years ago and they've got 80 grand in equity. So I mean, they're not going to go to foreclosure even if they needed to. So that it's very few people, unless you bought a house in the last 30 days, you pretty much have equity. And even in the last 30 days, you probably got a little bit of equity. So we're not close to that. The market, slowing market, yes, better for buyers than it has been. It's arguable. It's better. It's easier to buy a house than it has been, but it's also a lot more expensive. So you have to balance that out. In fact, since you went on a rant, one thing that irritates the crap out of me is I see it every day. I love my realtor friends. I'm telling you, but they
whiny.
One thing, that's actually not that. They keep posting this BS about, the market was, the interest rates aren't that bad because they were 18% back in my day. And I get so tired of reading that. Like, interest rates in the 80s were 18%. Congratulations. That has absolutely no value to any buyer today whatsoever. If you look at the comparison of wage increases since the 80s, and you look at the home value since the 80s, as of today, you're going to spend a lot more money on the average person will spend more money on their house than ever in all history, basically. And I say that not to say that's something that should affect you from buying or not buying. It's just the nature of where we are right now. I mean, there's a shortage. It all comes down to a shortage of houses, and people don't understand this. The problem was created 15 years ago when the world collapsed, and we just stopped building houses for like 8 years. And so we're so far behind on building homes that the shortage of real estate it's just not something that's going to go away. And so that's the issue. If you need a place to live, buy a house. But it doesn't matter if you could have had a better rate 20 years ago or 30 years ago. It's irrelevant. As of today, if you can get a house at 6%, buy the house because it fits your family, it fits your needs. And that's why I tell my clients, focus on today. As of today, the rate is what it is. Maybe it's higher or lower, like I said earlier. That doesn't matter. But what it was 30 years ago, I think is completely irrelevant.
I want to say something similar, that genuinely, and this is not like a sales pitch. It doesn't matter to me. You do buy with whomever you want to buy. I want to be genuinely clear on this. I've given the same advice for 15 years. If you are ready to buy a home today and your life situation suits it, the timing is good, buy. Don't try to game it out and wait for the right time.
Don't try to time the market. You can't time the market.
I tell a story all the time about the quarantine, March 2020. The whole city is shut down, whole country is shut down basically. And I had a buyer in escrow, and she's like, "Oh, Kyle, should I just cancel?"
Yeah.
An investor, yeah, should I just cancel? And she asked me genuinely. Now, obviously, it benefits me to tell her to buy the home, but I'm not even like being unserious. I would never tell her to buy if I thought it would be a mistake. I said to her, are you buying for rental? You're buying, the numbers are fundamentally sound. It's a great property. Why would you not buy it? What's going to happen in 2 or 3, 4 or 5 months? And so she decided just to go through with the property, and based on the fundamentals of a good investment. And now that home is worth $200,000 more than it was 2 years ago, or something like that. Crazy amount more. And my point being that everybody in the world will tell her, don't buy because we have a lockdown, but that's short-term thinking. When you're wealthy people, by the way, who are self-made know this, you can't make decisions based off fear. You have to think about the future, what's coming down the line, not today's fear. So don't be afraid.
Yeah, good point. All right, what else we got?
I don't know. What else do you want to talk about?
Well, I guess we could talk. We can talk travel if you want to. We'll talk a little bit of travel.
Sure.
The hot topic. You're in a different country every other week, so why don't you lead off on that? What do you got planned?
I traveled quite a bit. And don't shame me. Don't at me. I traveled quite a bit during COVID, and at the time, there was a great deal of consternation about all the restrictions getting in and out of different countries. But we pushed through it and had a lot of good experiences. Now, a lot of restrictions are gone. You can travel pretty much freely at this point. The U.S. just eliminated.
Not to Japan, unfortunately, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I know. Thankfully, we've been there, so we got that crossed off. The U.S. Eliminated entry restrictions for.
You don't have to test. You don't have to
testing. Yeah,
you don't have to pretend like you're getting a test every time you come to the country.
Yeah, I mean, I got mine. I don't know what you were doing.
No comment.
Yeah. Anyhow, so a lot of my experiences were colored by lockdown restrictions. It's very complicated to travel in the age of COVID because it's not just about getting a COVID test. It's about the restrictions in the place you're in up until recently. So you can show up to. I never forget. I was in London in December. And I was going to go to Paris, but then the day before I went to Paris, they instituted a massive restriction on restaurants and all kinds of stuff. And you had to have a vaccination standard got changed, all that stuff that happened the last second. So literally, I just didn't go to Paris. I went to Greece instead. And that's a good example of the sort of flexibility you have to have if you're going to travel internationally right now.
That's just easier said than done. I mean, most people don't have that ability to just to pivot. I mean, I've done that too, pivoted from one country to the other at the last minute. But
that's the only way to travel. Just book a one-way ticket. Don't worry about how you get back.
Must be nice.
And you'll be fine.
Quit your job, yeah. One thing I was going to mention today, which I put in I think in the notes, is how to. It's very, very, very expensive to travel now versus in the past.
Yeah.
And I traveled a lot during the pandemic. I think I went to 8 countries during the pandemic. I mean, I guess we're still in it, but the last 2 years, and mostly in Latin America because it was open and easy to get to. So
8 countries. What you did?
Yeah, I can count them out.
I think you're inflating that.
I think I'm inflating a lot. We can count them out if you want to. Quite a few actually.
No, I don't want to give you the satisfaction. Just keep going.
Anyway, so I don't know. It's not a count. By the way, like he likes to go to every country. You can check off a list. I'm not like that. I'd rather just go to a country I like and spend a month. But yeah, I'm not trying to. He's won. He's got more countries than me. Congratulations.
Thanks.
On that. You spent a day in Portugal. Good for you.
I spent more than a day. But
anyway, you're right. 2 days. So now you know Portugal. Anyway, so how do you travel? So I'll be in Europe, which I never go to Europe because I'm too cheap. So, a week in Europe is about 4 months in Colombia, pretty much the same. So it's tough for me. However, I'm going to enjoy it. And how I got there is very important. So I'm traveling business class to get there and coming back. Of course, why wouldn't you want to do that? But to pay for a ticket right now, you're going to spend 4, 5, 6, 7,000 bucks for a business class ticket to Europe, which I'm not doing that. I've never done that. So miles, right? And I'm not going on the whole rabbit hole of miles. Just to tell you a couple tips on traveling right now. If you have miles, now's the time to use it, but for long haul flights. Never use them for domestic flights. I don't care how expensive it is, just never do it. It's the worst idea. I'll give you an example. I transferred 90,000 Chase points to fly. So let's back up. I booked a one-way ticket, like Kyle did, to Europe on Emirates, because Emirates miles were expiring. So I booked it a year ago, thankfully, right, when they were lower. I just booked it. And by the way, you should get in the habit of doing that. If you have miles, don't let them sit there for some future nebulous time. Book a trip a year out. Worst case, you can change it, which I've done 3 times. So Emirates, Mexico City, Barcelona. I love Mexico City. So that's the first trip. So then I had to figure out a way to get back. And this one I just booked recently. So what I did was I said, okay, I'm in Vegas. How can I get from Europe to Vegas, right? And I said Europe, because Europe is small. I'll be in Spain and France. But, there's only a few major hubs in Europe. So I said, okay, what's the major hub in Europe that would be easy to get to Vegas? First one that came to mind, of course, was KLM, because KLM it has a direct flight from Amsterdam to Vegas. So I went on and said, okay, how many points do I need for Flying Blue, which is the KLM Air France frequent flyer program? How many points do I need to fly? It was ridiculous, like 500,000, 600,000, 700,000 points. Very, very high, sky high. So prices are high and miles are high. So what I did was I went through the whole month of July and August, and I found one day where it was 89,000 miles to fly. Like only one, by the way, and it was like 2 seats, which is what I needed. So I just booked it. So I transferred my miles to KLM, booked the flight, and I changed the rest of my trip around that one flight, basically, to come back. That is the way. To echo what you're saying, that's how you have to do it. You have to be flexible with your dates. Use your miles if you got them. If you don't have miles, what I would remind you of is when you're booking flights, don't be linear with it. Okay, so what that means is, let's say you want to go to Europe, because Europe is going to be the most expensive place to go pretty much in the whole world right now. So if you're going to go to, and it's difficult to travel right now in Europe, but let's say you're going to go to Europe and you need to be you're in Vegas or wherever you are in the U.S. Remember, you don't always need to go the whole route in one ticket. So let's say you're visiting Paris, but a flight from Paris to Vegas is going to be astronomical. Which it is. There doesn't exist, but I mean, you have to stop somewhere. So instead of trying to book a flight on a major carrier stopping in Philadelphia or Chicago or someplace, if the tickets are too high, remember, you can book a flight from Paris to New York City, just one-way ticket. Or you can go on Google Flights. You can say, I'm in Paris, I need to get to the stateside, U.S. Just get to the U.S., right? And look for every major hub in the U.S. on Google Flights and look for a flight. If it's Paris to New York, Paris to Philly, Paris to Charlotte, Paris to DFW, that might be a cheaper flight. And then you can easily get from a major hub to Vegas from anywhere in the U.S. So people forget sometimes you can book more than one flight and it might cost you a lot less money. And there's more tips and tricks to that, which we'll get into in future weeks. But
yeah, I think when I'm looking to book a trip, I spend a lot of time searching hubs. And so when I was in Europe, most recently, a few weeks ago, I had to get back to the U.S. I just had to look at every single European hub and try to find, and sometimes it's like $2,000 to fly from Ireland for some reason in business class, but $4,500 to fly from Paris. It's just crazy. But it only costs you, 50 or $100 to fly from Paris to Dublin. So you just gotta play around with it. It's definitely not the most fun thing to do, but if you want to save some money, you gotta be willing to be flexible, I think, if you want to travel internationally. Yeah. Otherwise, stay in the U.S. and avoid.
And remember, it can be better to book a one-way flight. Man, he's not just joking. Like, I rarely book round-trip tickets, almost never, because it's usually not the most convenient approach. And when you try to search for a round-trip ticket, it eliminates a lot of potential options that you won't even know about. So, but if you're booking a flight, remember to look one way as well. Compare them. Right? Booking one-way tickets from different airports, different carriers, by the way. 2 weeks ago, I had trouble getting back from Florida. I had to get to Florida on Allegiant. God help me, but we have a nonstop flight to Destin, Florida. No idea why, but there is one, and then they canceled it the night before. Thank you, Allegiant. Although they sent me $250, I didn't do anything. But anyway, so it was very difficult to get to Destin, Florida from Vegas on short notice. All the flights were booked solid. It was like $2,200 to fly Southwest or something. I mean, $2,200 to go to Florida. I mean, I've gone to Asia for cheaper than that. And so I had to end up buying, long story short, I had to buy two different flights. I flew American to Dallas, drove to from DFW Love Field, and then I got a Southwest flight to Destin, and it was $700 all in. It's still very expensive. But yeah, that's kind of I do that. It's tough to travel domestically too right now, by the way. Like, you've got to really make sure you get where you're going early. Do not go last minute, unless it's something you don't want to go to anyway. Make sure if you want to actually go to this event, to this wedding, and you're not just trying to pretend like you want to go, get there a day early. It's my biggest advice. All right, I think that's good. I think we covered a lot in a short amount of time. All right, so post any questions you guys have for next week. What's the burning questions you have, what you want us to discuss, and we will bring it up on the next week and give us any feedback. And thanks so much for our inaugural, for coming to our inaugural episode. Whatever, you know what I'm trying to say.
What are we gonna call this podcast, by the way?
I don't know. We'll figure it out. Bickering Brothers. Ciao.